Hey everyone, welcome back to Build Shefa, the podcast where we uncover how real estate investors, developers, and business leaders drive ROI and build spaces with purpose. I'm your host, Liat Siegel, and today's guest is Rodney Mullen, a visionary entrepreneur and investor who's transforming how we assess property value with AI. Rodney is the founder of Richer Values, a platform that delivers deep, institutional grade insights into residential real estate through custom technology. With over 15 years of experience buying thousands of homes and mortgages, he's built one of the most comprehensive intelligence tools for lenders, investors, and services nationwide. In this episode, we'll unpack how Rodney turned experience into innovation, the surprising gaps in how properties are evaluated today, and why smart data, not just gut instinct, is the new power play in real estate. Let's dive in. Rodney, it's amazing to have you here finally. This has been in the works for a few months now. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's dive in. Tell me a little bit about, what pulled you into what you're doing now. And really, I want to know what made you stay.
Stay where?
Stay in the game of what you're doing. There's always ebbs and flows, and some moments of like, what am I doing? So I'd love to know not just, how you got here, but the mission and purpose behind what you do.
Great. So it's a great question. I mean, for me, I think the goal was always about kind of knowledge and dissecting the puzzle and putting it together to figure out see, I've always loved investments, and from the perspective of, well, a savvy investor should really be able to like see what others don't see and find the value to say, oh, I'm going to grab that at this value because that's where everybody else has it, but I know there's more. And so that's kind of what has always driven me, even when I was like very young, and just the way that I look at markets. Any entrepreneurial track is always fun and interesting and super challenging. And I think a lot of the standard view of how people look at entrepreneurship and they glorify it, they totally overlook the insane amount of challenge and hurdles that there really are. So to your question, what made me stay in the game? I think it's basically the intellectual drive to say, no, I know I can figure this out, and I know we can develop this technology that can empower investors and lenders to see residential real estate with all of its complexities in a more clear framework that empowers them to make better decisions. So I think it's really just the pursuit of the goal I didn't want to let go of.
Mm. So maybe you're just a data nerd.
Yes.
But yet you're taking something, like you said, very complex and whittling it down to something very tangible and easy to understand. I mean, I've seen the platform. Maybe we'll drop in some B-roll so that everybody can see what we're talking about. But you've taken something very complex and made it so easy to understand and to evaluate if a property makes sense to invest in, and if so, how much and what to invest.
That's right. And so the way we always look at it is the value of residential real estate. When we're talking about homes, there's tangible and there's intangible, and there's scientific and there's emotional, and it's this confluence. From our perspective, it's really about changing the framework of how we look at residential real estate. Residential real estate is an interesting asset class because, unlike whether it's businesses or other real estate asset classes, commercial, retail, office, that are really driven solely by the numbers, there's a lot of human factors involved in residential real estate, where the standard metrics that people use to measure homes, square footage, beds, baths, those are very one-dimensional and objective. They don't really capture the emotion behind what homes might sell for and why. And so it has to do with not is it renovated or not, binary yes or no. It's a spectrum of understanding what level of renovation and what was done and what about the floor plan and what about the quality and what about the location and all these other factors that come into play. And so what we really aim to do is to create deeper metrics and insight on the intangibles that frequently are not in the normal data set, so to speak. So how do we evaluate all of the comparables in the area and identify where they sit on the spectrum of condition? Oh, that one's fully remodeled. That one's partially remodeled. Ooh, that one's poor, and so on and so forth. And as we start to look at all these qualitative factors and geolocation intelligence and all this stuff, you can we were able to create a more rich landscape to then run quantitative analytics on it. And then, as you said, boil it down, synthesize it to, great, how do we understand for this subject property, what could it be worth if I do just a minimum remodel or a partial remodel or a full remodel? How much is that going to cost me? And then where is that ROI come from? And so we start to empower those asset buyers, those investors, the lenders to better understand where is the value. Because the standard industry professionals who want their beautiful before after Instagram pics and all this stuff, they're listening to their realtor and to their contractor, and they just want their advertising material to show, look how great I am and look at this new project that I did. And it doesn't matter to them if the project makes any money or not. But it's the investor who cares, who now, if they can look at it and realize, oh my gosh, on this particular property, if I actually don't go and do everything at HGTV standards and I do a partial reno, I'll actually make more money than I will doing the full boat. And that type of intelligence doesn't exist anywhere else. And that's really what we were trying to create.
Mm-hmm. And that goes back to what we were saying in our previous conversations about that 3-second rule, that somebody makes a decision within the first 3 seconds of seeing a place, whether or not they're going to buy it. And yes, it's super important. Like what we do with ROI driven design, I would stop a client to say, don't spend, especially with a tool like yours, to say, don't spend, because at the end of the day, if it's not driving that biggest return for them, then we need to dial it back. And I think that's the genius of your platform, is to say, hey, there's a different way to do it. Here's the amount of time it's going to take to have a return if you do this kind of renovation. And here's the time if you do that, and which one is more profitable. Having that tool in your tool belt is literally it's amazing. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's very empowering. And that was really our goal.
Amazing. And was there ever a turning point for you guys that changed how you lead or operate today, within the software or within your career?
Yeah, I think the biggest turning point was when I originally was building the prototype and the beta version and building the software platform. The original goal was to just have a SaaS platform to provide an interactive software platform where people can interact with the data and the comparables and this and that, and that we would train people on how to do it. And so we were pitching to investors and lenders, et cetera, on, essentially a DIY platform. Here's how to analyze it and go as deep as you want. And particularly on the lending side, what we continued to hear was, this is amazing. You do the work. And come back and tell me the answer. And for a while, I kind of resisted that. The standard industry approaches of doing that are not so exciting to me. I've been there and done that. But as after hearing it enough times and kind of flipping the concept around where it wasn't about trying to enlist a bunch of outside real estate professionals who I think were taught wrong from the beginning. Instead, it was about how do we build an internal labor force where we can train them up on the way that we think is the right way, the comprehensive way to look at real estate. And as that concept started taking shape, we started building that out. And today, the valuation services side is probably 85 to 90% of our business. So that was a huge turning point. Is now essentially we use our own software platform to now provide, do the analysis and provide opinions and reports to various lenders and institutions across the country. So that was probably the biggest turning point. That was somewhere in, maybe 2020, something like that.
Wow. And you also said that you went from doing a lot of deals yourself to then building out the platform. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, originally, actually, the software and the prototype I started building for internal purposes. So I ran the investment fund from 2008 to 2013. Left in 2013, had a services-based company for a while. And one of those services was helping different institutional investors, REITs, fix and flip buyers, etc., find and acquire essentially the needles in the haystack of the thousands of homes that be coming through at weekly, monthly through HUD Homes, servicer inventory, REO auctions, etc. A lot of those deals don't pencil, but some of them are really nice deals. But how do you find them? I mean, thousands. So we started this service that was like this scouring service and then bidding service. And we would also buy deals off that ourselves, etc. And so as we were doing that and trying to really scour that, there was still a lot of human effort that had to be put in before I really felt comfortable presenting a narrowed list to buyers. So for this REIT, I know there's 950 properties that meet your criteria this week, but just bid on these 17 that I think actually have the highest chance that you're going to win and hit the returns you want. So for us to do that, if those 17 are also garbage because we didn't scrub them enough, there's not so much value in that service. But if those 17 have really high likelihood that they're going to win and it hits their returns, now the value of that service is super high, which it was. But it took a lot of human effort. And so really the initial idea was, man, how do I just get all the raw data myself and try to rebuild a software, not rebuild, but to build from scratch a software that could do a lot of what I'm trying to train my human team to do. But how do we do hours worth of work in seconds so that now you put the human on it and now they can go through a lot more properties in a shorter amount of time? So that was really the original concept.
Wow. Wow. So you took something that had a system already and you systematized it in a way that could be automated with the software.
That's right.
Wow.
Moving away from the kind of one-dimensional approach that the standard industry takes to evaluating at a hyper-local level a much more multifaceted understanding about what drives value in that area, in that neighborhood, etc. How does condition come into play, and so on and so forth. And then when you start to use all that, I always compared it, it's like going from black and white TV to color. It's like, oh, now all of a sudden look at this colorful world. And now I can start to see and comprehend, oh, forget the full remodel. If I could buy this property at whatever, 200 grand, but all I need to do is 17 grand worth of work, but it's actually worth 270. I'll do that deal all day long, even though a full remodel might have cost me 85 and is only going to sell for 300. That doesn't pencil anymore. So there are all these deals and all these properties that people are missing because to try to systematize the normal way is just taking like a very one-dimensional approach all the time, and they're leaving deals on the table.
Wow, that's amazing. So with all of this data and all your years of knowledge and experience and seeing things on the back end, like being boots on the ground, essentially, with this hyper localized data from across the country. What have you seen or learned about how people buy that they actually need to they need in order to trust, engage, and buy a property?
Great question, and that's why I love the work that you do and love the approach that you take, because it really is about having a designer's eye to catch the emotion of what people are looking for at the right spend level, and understanding that hyper local neighborhood and area, whether it's a quarter mile or it's a mile and a half, depends on what type of market you're in, urban, suburban, rural, but understanding how those move the needle and where is the right spend, and then going and just being really smart, really savvy about which elements are worth spending on. It's one thing if a market says, great, let's do a full remodel. But even then there's a ton of choices, but especially once you start backing off of that and start to get into the partial remodel space, or even the minimum remodel space, the choices that can be made have a big impact. So many times investors just kind of miss the mark. We've actually done studies that on thousands and thousands of properties and actual loans that investors are taking out, and looking at the scope of work that they're doing, about 55% of them are getting it wrong, where they're overspending or underspending.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. I think that needs to be a stat or a quote. That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So when you're seeing this happen, how does that impact their return?
Like I said, they're leaving money on the table, whether it's because how they've always been taught, or they're listening to the realtor or the contractor, whatever it is. Most often they're overspending because they're used to it, or they just say, oh, we got to do this kitchen in every house and this bathroom in every house and blah, blah, blah. And like I remember back in 2008, 2009, 2010, is, we were doing renovations on thousands of homes and whatever. And there were different competitors of ours that would, beat their chest and talk about how great they are. And, oh, we're so great. We have so many homes. And so we get such discounts on all of our materials. And so we put these countertops and these cabinets in every home, and blah, so we save so much money, so we're so great. And our comment was always, great job saving money on the kitchen that you didn't need to put in there in the first place. So I think that's the thing, is just having the right understanding. It's not just, oh, well, what deal did I get because I found some slabs at the yard. Great, but maybe you didn't need the slab in that house. Maybe you should have saved it for that one over there.
And your software, right, then helps them make that informed decision of how to spend and where.
That's right.
Amazing. And how have you seen that those mistakes impact the buyers, like actually going out and buying, or the pricing? Are they able to still get the same amount, or are they leaving money on the table?
Buyers meaning the retail home buyers that are buying it from the investor?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it totally changes by market in interesting ways. Like there are certain markets in the Pacific Northwest, and I don't understand this, but there are markets where fully remodeled homes will be selling at a certain price point. Call it whatever you want. 400,000. And there are a lot of aged homes. You see this a lot in Portland and a lot of these other areas. And you could have very aged homes in much lower condition that might need like 150 grand to look like those $400,000 homes. And they're selling for like 360 in like horrendous condition, like all the time. Makes no sense. People are buying those homes and then they're renovating on their own. So now they're going and they're spending 150 grand of their own money to go renovate their $360,000 house when they could have just bought one fully remodeled for 400, but no. And like there's really interesting examples like this all over the country. So it's totally market and neighborhood specific. But here it's almost like, therefore, in that market, I think, and I could be wrong, this is my hypothesis, I think the buyers in that market care so much about their individuality and the expression of it that they don't want somebody else's remodeled $400,000 house, even though it's amazing. Oh, but it's not my expression of who I am as a person and how I want my house to demonstrate that. Okay, so therefore they're spending 360 with $150,000 on top to have a house that's only worth 400 grand. So they're losing equity. Oh, but for them, it's what they want. It doesn't make sense to me, but in that market, if therefore you're buying property and you're getting whatever it is, probate deals or delinquent tax deals or whatever it is, and you're getting those properties at a lower price, minimum remodel all day long. Clean it out, get it on the market. Stop wasting your own time and money getting the $400,000 remodel, because you might have bought it at a low enough price that it pencils for you, but you could stick another $80,000 in your pocket by not doing the work.
So it's amazing that it's very location specific, because it's not always the case that you need to do that full remodel in order to make the biggest return, because people just they'll want like a blank canvas. It has to be enough of a nice blank canvas for them to be able to make it their own or envision. Like when we do staging, homes that are staged sell 90% faster. And the reason is because it's done in such a way that they can envision themselves living there. All the stuff has been cleared out, the windows, all the curtains have been removed to let light in. And that is the case in many different locations, as you just mentioned. So it's so important. Having that data is so vital in order to make the right decision. Okay, so knock it out and then move on to the next one and scale your portfolio, or, make more money.
Absolutely. And in most markets, it actually changes by the neighborhood. So it's not that, oh, now I did that on that deal, so now that's going to work on every one of my deals. No, every deal, every property is different. There's plenty of other neighborhoods that we see where your return in getting to a minimum remodel is almost nothing. But there's huge premiums for remodeled houses. And there, I think it's almost like the opposite effect of like what you just said, which is sometimes you've got buyers that maybe they can't quite envision it. And as you said, that's why staging helps and so on and so forth. And so in some of those markets, buyers would much rather just, oh, it's finished. I don't have to do anything. This is beautiful. I can see how it's staged. This is amazing. It is my expression of who I am. And then they grab it. And there's huge premium compared if it was just minimally remodeled or partially remodeled. And so it really is neighborhood and locale specific. It's not like, oh, every home in Atlanta is going to behave the same way. No, not at all.
What would you say your platform is most optimized for in terms of ROI?
The initial approach that we took is trying to understand and quantify the fix and flip, which doesn't have to be fix and flip. It can also be fix and rent and refinance, because still the ARV, when you're done with the renovations, the after repair value, even if you're going to go refinance, that's going to be your new mark, give or take, right? So the initial approach was trying to understand the spread in value. How does the property value change with different levels of renovation costs, and how much will that cost me? What we actually now have just added is rental estimates to it as well. Not short-term rental, we're not there yet, but long-term rental. And how do my rental rates change at different levels of renovation? And so now I can look at my returns on my basis in terms of, kind of my gross rent and be able to model that out. And so that's, we felt really kind of the next level of understanding returns and where do I get the ROI on my renovation spend?
Wow. Wow. It's mind blowing. Uh, Two last questions. One is, do you see, asides obviously for the locale, do you see the translation that perception equals increase in property value?
All the time.
Okay.
Yeah, all the time. And that's why it's interesting you mentioned staging. I mean, a lot of times people even do virtual staging.
Right.
And I haven't seen studies to know. I mean, I can tell the difference in a second. And so like I look at it and I think, how do people really fall for this?
We do actually.
So, but I don't know how much, what
Yeah.
percentage, right?
Yeah.
Because I know staging increases, as you said, first of all, faster sale times. But I think staging also generally, I think there are studies that show that it does bump up the exit price.
Yes, 100%. There is there's a stat out there. I don't remember the exact number right now. Maybe we'll put it in the show notes, but it sells for a lot more. And oftentimes for a property that is well staged, well renovated, sometimes there's bidding wars on those properties because it's unique, it's one of a kind. They're able to see themselves literally living in there. The one thing I always caution my clients about is having that online to offline continuity, where if it's virtually staged only and they go and see the property in person and it's not meeting their expectations, they have 3 seconds to wow them, and that kind of lets it down. So um, I
Right. And
agree.
that's what I was saying. I'd be interested to know, and I don't know if the study is out there. Let's say whatever it is, let's say staging can increase exit price by whatever, 3.6%. Well, how much will virtual staging? Because I tend to think that it is much more negligible because of that factor.
Mhm.
Because you go and walk it and you're like, oh, yeah, this doesn't look anything like those cool pictures I just saw online.
Right, exactly. So spending a little bit upfront, like knowing what to invest in, whether it's the kitchen here or some sort of other renovation detail that matches the client's desire, it's important to understand strategically what should be put in place, how it should be set up, in order to get that biggest return on investment. Last question for you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, absolutely. I mean, historically, some of the elements of renovation that typically would have the biggest impact on sale price. The top one historically, I don't know if it's still true with the amount of online activity now, but I think it probably still has a big impact. Front door.
Mm-hmm.
A new front door
Yeah.
has a huge ROI exactly because of what you're saying, because it's perception.
Mhm.
Oh, look, this nice, beautiful house. I'm walking in. It could look a lot worse on the inside than the home across the street that had the old door that, renovated everything inside.
Right.
But that front door has a big impact.
Right. Are they going to take that first step across the threshold in order to make that deal feasible, even? So, last question for you. Top three tips, tricks, advice for investors to stop leaving money on the table and start increasing their return on investment.
Take the emotion out. That's really number one, right? It's not about creating, these sexy before after pics to put on their Instagram. Like that's nice if that's what you want, but if you want to make money, take the emotion out. Number two, I would say kitchens and baths have got to always be central in any renovation plan. And number three, I think being smart and savvy with design, doing things that are different but attractive, that capture the eye for each particular local market. So exactly the type of stuff that you and your firm helps with. I think that's huge, and I see it all the time at any quality level. You can have mid-grade, luxury, or elite. The ones that really succeed in each of those categories are the ones that really put something out that, as you said, it's unique. It's a really nice touch. People walk in and they think, oh, I've never seen this before. Now it can be expression of my individuality. Can I envision myself there? And so striking that chord with those home buyers is so important. And so I think those would be my three.
Wow, fantastic. Amazing. It was so great to have you on the show. I've been really looking forward to this, and now the day is finally here. And we're going to get this out there. For anyone who wants to get in touch with you to learn more about your platform, how can they do that?
They can jump online, richervalues.com, and send an inquiry or request a demo, or they could email me, Rodney at richervalues.com, whatever works.
Amazing. We'll have your information in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to seeing what else you come up with next, and to ourselves be using your platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you.